we're going to start with first is our neck curls, which is basically us trying to get our necks warmed up. So staying nice and comfortable with the torso nice and steady. We're going to tip the chin down towards the chest. Keep the shoulders nice and relaxed, and then just round the chin along the collarbone to look out over that left shoulder. Drop the left ear down towards your left shoulder and just hold here for a second to get a nice big stretch. And then reach the chin back up around, just being mindful of the back of the neck. So you don't want any pinching or anything like that. Drop the right ear down towards that right shoulder. And then rotate. Bring the chin over the right shoulder. Chin down along the collarbone, back into that starting position. And then hands can just gently interlace behind the back of the neck, very gently, pulling down a little bit deeper into the stretch. You can release that then. Head comes back up, and we're going to do it one more time, just going the other direction. So chin comes down towards the chest. Scoop that chin out along the right collarbone now to look over the right shoulder. Drop the right ear down. Get the nice stretch on the side. And then keep the shoulders nice relaxed. Reach that head back up and around and drop the left ear down towards the left shoulder. Rotate to look over the left shoulder. And then bring the chin down and along. And again, hands can interlace just behind the back of the head, and we're really just letting the weight of those elbows kind of pull the head gently down, get a nice big stretch all along the back of the neck, down in between the shoulder blades. Gently release that, and then what we're going to do is come into thoracic curls for our upper back, so we're going to hug ourselves. What I want you to think about doing is keeping the chin tucked in that gap between your arms for the whole rotation. So we're going to round just through that upper section of our spine, keep the lower back flat. Get a small rotation out towards the left. So we're trying to twist through that torso. Drop the left shoulder down, right shoulder up. Now we're into a side bend. Get that nice big stretch. Again, mindful of our lower back, we're just going to reach that chest up towards the ceiling. Same movement pattern that we're doing with the neck. And then drop that right shoulder down, left shoulder up. Get that big stretch all along the left-hand side of the ribcage. We're going to twist out towards the right-hand side, keep the hip steady. And then curl forward back to our starting position. In this position, I want you to stay here and take a couple of breaths into the back of the ribcage. I'll just turn around. Curl forward, and I want you to imagine when you breathe in, that ribcage expands back. And when you breathe out, the ribcage softens. Breathe in, ribcage expands back. Breathe out and soften. And then on the next exhale, coming up, hands out. Let's swap the hands around. Keeping the core a little bit engaged, so it's just that upper section of our spine that's going to round forward. So you can see my lower back stays flat there, I don't drop. And then we're going to twist out towards the right hand side. Drop the right shoulder down, left shoulder up. Get that stretch. So you're imagining between two panes of glass. And then we're going to lean slightly backwards. We're going to try and break that pane of glass behind us as we drop over towards the other side now. Left shoulder down, right shoulder up. Into that side bend. Okay, guys. And then rotate, just twisting through the top of the torso. And then rounding down through the back. And I'm going to get you guys to do the same again. So we're going to breathe in into that back of the rib cage, feel it expand. Breathe out, feel it soften. Just do that 2 to 3 more times in your own time. And then you can slowly come out of that. I'm going to say in a side view so you can see what I'm doing. Hands are going to come onto the knees, and we're going to do some waves in this position. So you're going to drop back and then bring the chest forward, chest up, round back. Let the head drop down and then curl forward, chest up, chin up. Just do this a few more times, kind of working with your breath. So breathe in, chest up, and then breathe out, chest back. Breathe in, chest up, and then breathe out, chest back. We're going to bring our hands into an eagle position. So right hand on the bottom, left hand on top. For some of us, we're going to be able to interlace those hands and get the palms together. For others, just keep the back of the hands together or whatever comfortable for you. What I'm going to get you to do is try and think about lifting the arms up and spreading the shoulder blades apart. And we're going to do the same again. We're going to try and lift that chest up. Breathe in and then breathe out. Keep the elbows high. Try and spread the shoulder blades apart. Get that stretch in between them. Breathe in, chest up. And then breathe out. Drop that back. One more time on this side. Breathe in. And then breathe out. We're going to come back in towards the center, into neutral, and then change onto the other side. So right hand on top, left hand on bottom. And if you can, try to get those palms together again. Don't worry if you can't. Just have the back of the hands together. So I'm here, and then I interlace those hands. And then again, breathe in, chest up, elbows up, and then breathe out. Try and drop back and down. Breathe in, and then breathe out. Drop back. Breathe in, elbows high, chest high, and then breathe out. Drop back. You can relax those hands down, and we're going to come into some side bends. So we're going to start. Hand comes down to the mat, and then we're going to reach up and over, get a nice big stretch. You can kind of bend this elbow to get a deeper stretch. Just take a breath or two here. Breathe in, come back in towards the center, and then breathe out. Drop the hand down, elbow down, reach up and over. Try and keep this arm straight if you can. Almost imagine you're trying to elongate from the tips of your fingers all the way down to that hip. We're going to do one more on each side. Reach up and over. Take a breath or two here. Breathing in, back in towards the center, and then breathe out, drop over. Breathing in, come back in towards the center. Now we're all going to come into a quadruped position and go into some nice slow cat cows. So knees in underneath the hips, hands in underneath the shoulders. We're going to think about starting from the tailbone, and we're going to try and round that spine one section at a time. So just tuck in, so you can see a little better. We're going to start by squeezing the glutes, rounding that lower back, tucking the tailbone under, and then we're trying to pull up through the belly button. Now we're pulling up through the mid back, in between the shoulder blades, elongate the back, the neck, drop the chin down and tuck it. Take a breath here. Breathe out. Another breath, and then as you breathe out, start tipping the tailbone up towards the ceiling, belly button down towards the ground, rib cage down towards the ground, chest down, chest bone scoops forward, chin comes up, and then just take a breath here. And really try to think as you breathe in, stomach expands and softens, and breathe out. We're just going to do a few more now, but a little bit faster with our breath. So breathe in here. And then breathe out, tuck the tailbone right into the back. Breathe in, tailbone up, chest up. And then breathe out, right into the back, pull up to the core, tuck the chin. And then we're going to come back in towards neutral position. A little bit of a lift through the core, the hand comes out in front. We're just going to do one shoulder card to try and get the shoulders warmed up a little bit. So thumb up towards the ceiling, arms straight. Bring it in by the chin or the ear. And then we start rotating in and reaching back and around. Try and keep the torso really flat here. So we're not twisting through the torso at all. It's nice and flat. Bend the elbow, tip the back. I'm going to get you to drop the elbow down towards the ground. So we're just going to do a bit of shoulder work here. Squeeze the shoulder blade back, elbow up towards the ceiling, and try and hold here for a second or two. Drop the elbow back down towards the mat. Squeeze the shoulder blade back, elbow comes back up towards the ceiling. Lovely. And then in this position, let's straighten that arm. Come back around, bringing that hand up again by our cheek or chin, and then lowering it back down. We're going to go on to the other side. I'll rotate around so you can see. Hand out in front, arm straight. Trying to keep that torso nice and steady. Let's lift the thumb up towards the ceiling. Biceps coming in by our cheek or our ear, and then rotate the hand in and around. Keeping it nice and high, let's bend the elbow, hand into the lower back. Drop the elbow down towards the mat then. Let's squeeze the shoulder blade back, elbow up nice and high. Drop down again. Is my shoulder cracking? And let's squeeze the elbow back up towards the ceiling. Straighten the arm. And then bring that hand back and around by the cheek. Lovely. We're going to do the same with our hips. So we'll start with the left hip. Heel up towards the ceiling. Squeeze the glute. We're trying to keep that leg in a nice 90-degree position. Let's drop the knee out to the side. Foot can come in. We're trying to scoop the knee up towards our elbow. Again, keeping the lower back nice and flat. So watching, rounding through that tailbone. Bring the knee in underneath our chest. Back in line with our hip. And let's reverse it. Knee comes back up towards the chest. Keep that back really flat. Lift the leg up and out to the side. Knee down. Foot points up towards the ceiling. And we scoop that leg back into our kick back position again. And come back down. Now change over onto the other side. Heel kicks back and up towards the ceiling. Knee out towards the side. Bring that leg up and around in towards the elbow. And then back down in underneath our hip, and let's reverse it. Knee up towards the chest. Lift out to the side. Knee down, foot up. Lovely, guys. Let's scoop it back and around. In this position now, we're just going to do a bit of a calf stretch. But I promise that was the most active part of this flow. It was. So we're going to bring the leg back, curl the toes under, and point that heel to the wall behind. And you can kind of slightly push yourself away with the hands to try and get a deeper stretch into that calf. Just take a breath or two here. Bringing that knee back in towards the center, and we're going to change over onto the side. Toes curled under, legs straight. Try and push that heel away. And again, you can just very gently push into the ground. Get a bit of a deeper stretch. We're going to keep that back toe out, push the hands into the ground, and we're going to come back into a downward dog position. We've done this one before. We're going to keep the feet relatively close together, toes pointing forward. We're going to bend the knees and try and drop that chest down. So we're really getting a nice stretch into that thoracic spine, into the lats. And then let's straighten the leg, drop the heels down towards the ground, try and push the hips up towards the ceiling. Nice big stretch in the back of the legs. Come up onto the toes, bend the knees, drop the chest down. And then push the heels away, hips up towards the ceiling. Elongate down the back of the legs. We're just going to hold here for a breath or two, and then we're going to walk to the top of the mat. So breathe in and breathe out. And then we're just slowly stepping those feet forward. You can bend the knees as you come up. And what I'm going to get you to do is feet a little bit wider on the mat. Hands to the elbows. And we're just going to hang out here in a ragdoll for a second or two. So we're really just trying to think about getting a nice big stretch on the back of the legs and into the lower back. You can relax the head. Give it a shake side to side. So no, and then yes, not the head. You can rock gently from side to side as well if you want. Really just imagine those two elbows or weights pulling you down towards the mat. And then just bend the knees slightly so the hands can come down towards the mat. Point the toes out, and we're going to go down into a deep squat. So if you need to, if your ankle mobility isn't fantastic, you can let the elbows come up the ankles come up very slightly, the heels come up. If you can, trying to stay down in whatever your deep eight position is, and then hands can come in towards the center. If this is very uncomfortable for anyone, you feel like you have to hold a lot of tension in this position, You can come into that seated butterfly pose instead. Which looks like this. Just if anyone does need to come into an alternate, so you can always go to this pose. Again, just rock gently side to side. And then tuck the chin, push the hips back up, and come back into that ragdoll. So elbows in the hands and just rocking gently side to side. Hands coming back into the mat. Let's inch those feet back in towards the center. We're going to rock back onto our heels, so the knees can be nice and bent here. It doesn't really matter about the legs being straight. Just rock onto our heels and then forward onto our toes. Just small little movement. We've done these before. We don't have to go as high as we normally do. Just rocking backwards and forwards, heels to toes, toes to heels. And then bring the feet flat on the mat. We're going to step back with our right leg. Drop that right knee down and just walk the left foot out towards the outside of the mat. This is where you might want a pillow or two. We're going to go into a lizard pose. So if you can't comfortably get your elbows down onto the mat, or you're just feeling a bit stiff, you can just use those pillows to prop yourself up. We're going to try and drop the elbows down onto that pillow. So we're in like a low lunge position. I'm just taking a slow, steady breath here. So breathe in and breathe out. And if you're feeling any tension anywhere, maybe in the hips, maybe in the quad, hip flexor, just try and breathe deep down into that point of tension. And then with each exhale, just think about trying to relax. You can stay in this position or you can come into a little bit of a twist now. So you can bring the hands up high. My left hand is going to come to my left knee. What I'm doing is just slightly twisting out to the side and dropping my right hip down. This is optional, it's quite a deep stretch. So you can see it from this position. From here, and then I'm just twisting a little bit like this to drop that hip down. Again, if you're already in deep enough stretch, you can just stay where you are, but if you want to get a bit of an extra one. So staying there for another breath or two. And then again, if you want optional stretch, bend that back leg and take hold of that back foot, and you get a nice, really deep stretch down to the front of that back quad. We're going to release that hand, move the pillows to the side, and then we're going to step back and up and change legs. So right leg forward now, just the outside of the mat, lower that left knee down. I'm going to do the same again. So if you need those pillows, or you can bring the elbows all the way down to the mat. Just try and relax the neck in this position as well. So try to hold yourself up with the shoulders. We're just really letting the floor or the pillows take our weight if we can. Just try and drop a little bit deeper into the hips. Again, focusing on the breath here, so just breathing in and breathing out. You can stay here if you want, or if you'd like, you'd go back into that twist, so come up onto the hands. Right hand comes towards right knee, and then we're just twisting and dropping that left hip down. So I'm trying to bring my torso to almost face out towards that right knee. Getting a really deep stretch on the hip and the outside of the hip on my left side. And then I can come back in towards the center, and if I want optional quad stretch here, it's obviously quite deep. We're going to release the foot. Move the pillows to the side because we're going to go into a pigeon pose now, so we'll probably need it for the next pose. Hands onto the mat. Let's straighten that back leg. Push up into a downward dog. You can pedal out the heels if you want. Just get a nice stretch down the back. Put the leg back the calf. And then we're going to lift the left foot up towards the ceiling. Bring that left leg in and bring it down. So I'm trying to get sink that left hip down towards the mat. If I can't comfortably get that hip down, this is where the pillows can come in. So you can just pop that pillow in underneath your hip, or 2 pillows. And again, if you need one under the front of the knee, you can. I'm going to take a breath or 2 here in a tall pigeon, and then we're going to bend the elbows and come down to the mat, if that's comfortable. So we're going to come down into a sleeping pigeon, so the elbows come down to the mat. If this is enough of a stretch, you can stay here, or if you want, you can bring the elbows to the outside of the knee, and we're just twisting out towards that left side. And then you can bring the hands out towards the other side, towards the foot, so we're coming out towards the right. I'm just trying to relax that head down. Slow, deep breaths. And then go back into whatever position you got the best stretch in. So I'm going to stay here because this gives me the best stretch. And we're just going to take 3 steady breaths in whatever position that is for you. Try and breathe deep, feel the rib cage expand, and then breathe out. Soften the breath. Feel the rib cage drop down. And then on the next exhale, just walking the hands back in towards the center if you're out to one of the sides. Hands back up. And let's push back into that downward dog. Again, just you can pedal the feet nice and slow. And then make sure you've got your pillow ready. Right heel up towards the ceiling. And then we're bringing that right leg up towards our hands. Trying to get the shin relatively parallel to the top of our mat and drop that right hip down. And again, if you need to, pillow can just come in underneath. If you're feeling this in your knee at all as well, what you can do is bring the heel closer to your back hip, and that should take the pressure off the knee. I'm going to stay here in a tall position for 1 or 2 breaths, and then we'll drop the elbows down. And then elbows coming down towards the mat. Walk the elbows out towards the outside of the knee, so towards the right. Drop that head down. And then walk the elbows out towards the foot, so out towards the left. And again, just finding any point of tension and trying to breathe deep down into that point. Trying to imagine it soften with each exhale. And then finding whichever was the position that gave you the best stretch, and then we're going to stay there for 3 breaths. So if you need to readjust, you can. Really trying to feel the rib cage expand with each inhale, and then soften with each exhale. And then on the next exhale, just walking those hands back in towards the center, bring yourselves back up into a tall position, hands flat on the mat. We're going to push back. We're going to go into a wave unload here. If you want, you can keep the knees down on this and just do a small wave. If you want to go for the full one, we push those hips up towards the ceiling. We're just going to do a half one. So we're going to take this really nice and slow, round through the back as we pull ourselves forward, trying to curl through the spine, super slow. Drop the hips down, squeeze the glutes, shoulders back and down, relax the top of the thighs onto the mat. Hold here for a breath or two. And then we lower ourselves back down towards the mat. Hands coming in underneath the shoulders. We're going to push up again into that cobra position, and let's twist and look back towards our right heel. Breathing in as we lower down, relax, and then deep breath in, breathe out, let's push up and look back towards our left ankle. And then slowly lower back down. Right hand can come out in front very slightly, push yourself up, and let's thread the needle in a prone position. So you're going to get that left hand in underneath that right arm, drop the shoulder down, and then if you want to get a bit of a deeper stretch, you can try and rotate the torso back down towards the mat, right hand onto the mat, right forehead down. So some of us are going to want to stay here, and others are going to want to try and go deeper into that stretch and look straight down onto the mat. Taking one more deep breath here. Breathing out, hand comes back onto the mat, push up, and let's bring that left hand out to the side. We've done this one before. My right hand is by my right shoulder. I'm going to bend my right foot, and I'm going to push, and we're going to roll back, up and over. Again, if you can't comfortably get that foot down onto the mat, you can bring the knee down here so we're not quite as far twisted. Trying to relax that head down as well. So we're getting a nice deep stretch into the straight left arm behind us. Maybe a little bit into our lower back and hips as well. And just take slow, steady breaths. And then exhale and slowly come back in towards the center. Left hand in now, just slightly in front of the shoulder. Push up into that cobra. The right hand comes in underneath again. We're going to thread the needle on this side. Try and rotate the torso down if you can't, get a deeper stretch. Left hand on the mat, and you can just rest that forehead down onto the back of the left hand. And you can play around with whichever position here gets you the deepest stretch and is most comfortable. On the next exhale, left hand comes back towards the mat. We're going to push ourselves up, right hand out towards the side and out straight, the palms facing down. Left hand by the shoulder, let's bend the left knee and push up and over into that side twist again. Relax the head down. And again, we always have the option of having the knee on the mat here as well, so we don't necessarily have to go fully into that twist. And then slowly coming back in towards the center, lying down onto the mat. Both hands come in underneath the shoulders. And we're going to push back and up into a child's pose. Just get a bit of a stretch here. We're going to come into a seated forward fold. So we've got a couple of different options here. Again, you can always have the pillows in underneath the hips if you want. First option is to have the sole of the foot in against the thigh. We're going to come forward like this. This is where you may need the band. If that's fairly comfortable and you want to go into a bit more of a hip and a thigh stretch, you can go into this position here. So you kind of have the heel outside of the thigh and we're into a half saddle. So again, it's just whatever's comfortable for you. You want to make sure that you're going to be able to comfortably fold forward. So either in this position or in this position here. Whichever position you're in, we're going to reach the hands up and over. And then let's round forward, try and drop that head down. Again, if you can't hold on to the foot, you're holding onto the calf or the ankle, where you're using that band to loop over the foot if you need it. And then if you are holding the foot, you're going to hold onto the big toe. That left elbow is trying to come into your left thigh. You're going to try and rotate and look up underneath the arm. If you can't reach your foot, use that band and just try and hold the band and reach up. If you've no band, just try and reach the hand up and over and just let it kind of hover there. But ideally, we're trying to hold and twist. Again, depending on where you're tight, you'll feel this in different points. You might feel it on the back of the hamstring, might feel it into the right side of the ribs and the lower back. Taking one more deep breath here, breathe in, and then breathe out. Bring the chest down, back towards the thigh, walk the hands back up. And we're going to change our bow to the side. So sitting up nice and tall, and then either left foot in towards the right thigh, or into that half saddle pose with the leg out to the side. Just make sure your hips are nice and even. We're going to reach up, inhale, and then exhale, round forward. And again, you may notice that you're tighter in different spots on this side. So we like to think that the two sides are even in the body, but really there's differences, there's imbalances. We're tight in one spot and not so tight in the other. And then we're going to come into that twist again. So whether you need to use the band or you can hold onto your foot, that right elbow comes in towards the right thigh. We're trying to look up and under our left arm, rotating the chest out to the side. And just trying to take slow, deep breaths here. Really feel the rib cage expand when you breathe in, and then soften as you breathe out. On the next exhale, you're just bringing that chest back down towards the thigh and then coming up and out of that. We're going to come into a lying position now, so we're going to lie down onto your back. Again, have the pillows nearby, because if you can't comfortably go into a side stretch, you may want to just have the knees on the pillow. Don't worry if that doesn't make sense now, hopefully it will in a second. And what we're going to do is cross our left knee over our right knee. Have that left knee pointing up forward towards our face, and then we're going to drop the knee out towards the side. So if you can't get that knee comfortably down onto the ground, the hip can come up, but we're trying to keep our torso flat. If you need to, you just prop that knee up with those two pillows. And we're trying to keep those shoulders pinned down. And get that really nice stretch on the outside of our left hip. And then we're going to roll our torso out towards the right hand side, so now that we're facing out to the same side. The hands are in a kind of long prayer position. And what I'm going to do is, using my fingertips, I'm going to trace a semicircle up overhead. So I'm going to reach up overhead with that hand. Once my hand gets over my head, I rotate the palm. So now the palm of the hand is facing up towards the ceiling. And I try and rotate back down. And I'm into that T position again and into the twist. If I want, I can look out towards that left hand to get a bit of a deeper stretch into the neck and into the chest. And then I'm going to come back, reach up overhead, and slide that hand in that semicircle back to the starting position, the hands out in front. We're going to do that one more time. So reach up and overhead, get that nice big stretch into the side of the torso, stretching out the shoulder as the palm of the hand goes up towards the ceiling and reach out to the side. And we're just going to stay here for 2 to 3 breaths. So breathe in and breathe out. Breathe in and breathe out. Deep breath in, and then on the next exhale, bring the legs back in towards the center. You can hug the knees very slightly in towards the chest if you want. Then we're going to change over onto the other side. So if you need to move the pillows over onto the other side. Crossing the right leg over the left knee pointing up towards the chest. Bring the left hand to the outside of the knee and let's drop out towards the left. Try and keep the shoulders down. So try and get that deep stretch. So our 2 knees are dropping out towards the left. We're getting a deep stretch into the outside of that right hip. And then we're going to come into those around the worlds again for our shoulders. So the hands are in that prayer position and we're going to bring the hands out in front of us to the left-hand side. So our knees and our hands are both pointing out towards the left. Or reach that top hand up overhead, tracing a semicircle, and then I rotate so that the back of the fingers are down on the ground, the palms up towards the ceiling as I reach that hand out towards the right-hand side. So I'm really trying to get a big, deep stretch in my chest now and in the shoulder. And then I'm going to reach that hand back up overhead again, coming back to that starting position. And then again, reaching the hand back up overhead, creating that big semicircle with that top arm. And then reaching out to the side. And let's just try and stay in this twist for a couple of breaths. So breathe in and breathe out. Again, try not to hold on to any tension here. Just trying to relax. Let the ground or the pillows support that knee. If I want, I can look out towards my right hand to get a bit of a deeper stretch into the chest and into the neck. Taking one more deep inhale here. And then exhale. Legs come back in towards the center. Hug the knees in towards the chest. And then we're just going to lie on our mat. You can either have the feet together with the knees dropped out to the side, or you can be just in what's called a Savasana pose if you do yoga. Again, whichever feels more comfortable for you. So we're just going to take a couple of deep breaths here. So close the eyes. And just connecting. Focus on trying to slow down the breath. So see if you can breathe in for a count of 4 or 5. And then breathe out for a count of 6 to 8.
whichever position you're going to reach up overhead. Take a deep inhale. Interlace the fingers if you can. Try and reach up overhead. And then breathe out, roll the shoulders back. And breathe in. Try and reach the hands up. You can point the toes away. And then roll the shoulders back. Stay here for 1 or 2 breaths, and then we're going to hug the knees in towards the chest. Bring the knees in towards the chest. Let's hug those knees. You can rock side to side. And then we're dropping out towards the side, pushing yourselves up into a seated position. Happy Thursday. Hopefully everyone enjoyed the flow.